depleted. Now, I know it hasn't really been a problem during the playoffs. They dominated the line of scrimmage against Oregon. They dominated the line of scrimmage against Tennessee, but I don't think they've seen a front like Texas. I think Ohio State has the advantage everywhere, but that defensive line for Texas and their defensive
And the one
backcourt.
time they saw a line that's similar to that line was Michigan. And Michigan changed that game.
Correct. And now I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here. That Texas offense has seen a lot of problems this year. I understand Georgia was a top 5 defense, but that SEC championship game was a joke. The team couldn't get anything going offensively for Texas, and they lost the game. If Ohio State's defense is able to do what that Georgia defense did in the SEC championship, I think the Buckeyes win by 2 scores. So I don't like that the game is in Texas's backyard in Dallas. I cannot stand that this is probably going to be a 70-30 situation at Jerry World coming up tonight. But I like the Buckeyes' chances. I like the chances, but you can't help but to be nervous because I told Christian, too, I didn't think for a second that Penn State was going to lose that game. Even during the game, when Notre Dame was going through their progressions of coming back, whatever, I never thought Penn State was going to lose the game. So that's my 2 cents on the game. I think the Buckeyes have the edge everywhere outside of offensive line, their offensive line to Texas defensive line. And I think that we could actually be seeing some equal footing for the first time all playoffs with Ohio State's wide receivers and Texas's DB.
Yeah, you got to see how Ohio State responds to a little adversity. They haven't had much adversity so far this postseason. They've blitzed both of the teams that they have played in Oregon and Tennessee. All of a sudden, the last time they faced real adversity, they kind of faltered, and it was Will Howard that really struggled when it was drive-by-drive. You need to get first downs and move the chains. That's where he struggled against Michigan. So off of that, how Ohio State responds to the inevitable adversity that will likely come at some point tonight against Texas will be a deciding factor in that game. I think if you beat Will Howard and you get in his head and you make him second-guess his reads and his throws, and he's starting to thinking he has to win the game himself, I think that is what Michigan did, and that is how you could possibly catch Ohio State because they got too much firepower.
And to your point, make Will Howard uncomfortable. Texas has the advantage at that D-line, as I just said. And also, what kind of run game are you going to see from Texas? Colin, Texas is one of the best rushing attacks in the country all year. And then last game really struggled to run the football well. It was the Quinn Ewers 300-yard game where he really had to put on a clinic. So for Texas, the blueprint is you got to be able to do what you've done well all year, which is run the ball and get after the quarterback. Ohio State's blueprint is to have the pass open up the run. Jeremiah Smith, number 4 for the Buckeyes, has been able to run rampant in the playoff, which opened up the run with Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Buckeyes end up winning by about 10 or so, a touchdown or so, get a late score late in the game, and then have Texas start pressing. What Quinn Ewers are we going to see, Colin? That's another question. What Quinn Ewers are you going to see? Are you going to see the Quinn Ewers that struggled against Georgia or the Quinn Ewers that made every play late in the game to avoid disaster against Arizona State?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is he kept his cool, and he's always going to stay collected. He's good at that. He's good. If there's anybody that's good at responding to adversity, it's probably Quinn Ewers. 4th and 13, down 8 points to Arizona State in an OT game. That, to me, is adversity, and he handled that properly, and there's been breakdowns of that play. You could go find it online. Where he changes the coverage, he changes the play, he sees something in the secondary he likes. He completely changed the dynamic of that game, and so he won on that. I'm not a huge Quinn Ewers guy. I don't know if the upside there is there athletically, but for him, he knows that he's going to need to put on some offensive performance to behold if he's going to want to keep pace if this Ohio State offense gets going.
Quinn,
if they can keep it ugly, he will play what the game needs him to play. If they need him to be a Superman, put on the cape, then he'll try to do that. If they need him to maintain the game, they're going drive for drive with Ohio State, and it's 7-7 in the middle of the second quarter, then I think he will manage the game, make sure the run game, keep the defense on the field, get Ohio State gassed, utilize field position. That Quinn Ewers is very good at playing the game that is probably asked of him. But that works to a fault because sometimes you just want him to close a team out, and he doesn't do that. So I will think I would lean on the side of I'm rooting for Ohio State -6.5. I would say Quinn Ewers is going to have to put on the cape tonight, and I don't think it will be enough.
I thought it was 6 for us. I swore it was 6 yesterday.
Is it 6?
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Maybe
definitely
it's
6.
Okay.
Because we gave Christian and them 6.
Okay.
It's just another layer of things in this game, I think, is the coaching side, too. We've seen Ryan Day be as good as he's ever been, I think, in that Buckeye in that Buckeye shirt. I think the best year he had, obviously, was when they went to the national championship and faced one of the most loaded Alabama Crimson Tide teams we'll see in our lifetime. Outside of that year, this has been the best he's coached in about a 2 or 3 game span at Ohio State. And then on the flip side for Texas, too, Sark has been known to kind of get in his own way a little bit in some of these games as well.
He's a great play caller, but yes.
Yeah, and I think people are like, oh, Texas needs to win this game in order to be back. Dude, Texas has been back for the last 2 years now.
I think they need to win it. You can't falter in the same spot you faltered in last year.
Partner 2 college football playoff semifinals in a row. All right, and the top recruiting class in 2025, according to 24/7 Sports.
Recruiting means nothing. Half these guys don't even make it to their starting lineups before they transfer.
I don't know, man. And you could call me I guess this is the Buckeye fan in me talking recuding is everything.
High school recruiting does not mean nearly as much as what once did. It's all about the college transfers.
Then I'll listen to that. But getting the guys in the door and getting a player like Jeremiah Smith in the door.
That's a one of one. That's the number one player overall in the class. How many players
we'll disagree on
that Ohio State recruiting class probably played this year? How many of them did? And how many of them probably are going to enter the transfer portal in 3 weeks' time?
The top recruits will stick around, but to your point, the lower end 4-stars will probably hit the portal because they're not playing.
That's why I can't read into that. You read so much into that.
I do. There's top because there's five stars. The 5-stars count. And say what you want. You tell me Riz are fifth years all around college football. I agree with you, but not a lot of them are 5-stars like the ones that are still around Ohio State, like JT Tuamola, Jack Sawyer, and company.
Yeah, we don't need to break down the defensive line.
Regardless, sorry. And it's more than just the defensive lines that are around their 5th-year 5-stars. But Texas and Ohio State, I think the coaching matchup is intriguing as well.
Texas needs to win the big one. They need to win a big one. And them beating Arizona State, they're another beneficiary of a fairly easier route. Clemson kept around in the game in that third quarter. Arizona State ultimately controlled that game. A time of possession, they were beating them at the line of scrimmage. Arizona State, for lack of a better term, probably should have won that game. And they controlled that game against Texas, a Big 12 opponent. Oh, the phony Big 12 controlling the line of scrimmage against Texas. So off of that, Texas needs a bit of a statement game similar to what Penn State needs. They need a statement victory. And it was emphatic against Arizona State, but it wasn't statement. That was a team they should have beaten. This is a team that not favored against. All right, you want a statement victory? Here's your chance. That's how I view Texas. If they want to enter into the elites category, you got to have to do it eventually.
It's in their own backyard.
Notre Dame did it yesterday. They showed it. Now it's time for you to show it. That's the way I view Texas. I understand they're very good, and I understand great coaching staff, a lot of pros. Fine. You got to win the big one. I'm not going to build a statue because we took down Arizona State in 2 overtimes. Not going to do it. We roll on.